India, one of the oldest civilizations in the world. With a population of 1.2 billion people, 1,000 dialects, 33 million gods, the diversity of India is nothing short of mind-blowing. And its uniqueness lies somewhere in this clash between its future and its ancient past.
I'm Grant Windle. Recently, I travelled to Africa to document the tragedies and the triumphs of their children. Now I've come to India to do the same. I'm here to give you a glimpse into what it's like to be born a child into this nation, at just how the odds are stacked against them, but also the hope and the joy of making a difference.
Receiving her independence from British rule in 1947, now in the era of globalization and ranked as the world's largest democracy, India has once again become a leading player in the world. There's no doubt there's a burgeoning optimism here. A new dawn has broken, and a new generation is poised to impact the world. After all, 500 million Indians are under the age of 25. That's almost double the US population. And they call this the New India.
In the West, over the last 20 years, the perception of India has changed. Some see it as being the next great superpower due to its economic reform, foreign investment, and great achievements in fields such as IT. Big money is coming from abroad. Its economic growth rate, technical support, and expertise are what's changing India into a 21st century superpower. India's medical tourism is worth $1 billion a year and growing, not to mention Bollywood, India's exploding movie industry. The world is literally beating a path to India's door.
But in India, the past is always present. The old and the new are yoked together like two oxen, yet moving in opposite directions. The one is now choking the other. And this divergence could take lifetimes to solve. The deep ancient roots of history and religion, making the issues so complex and multi-layered. And what has emerged is an abyss, an enormous contradiction, a discrepancy, a division, a crack in the land where souls do plunder. Until India overcomes the overwhelming obstacles it now faces, those that suffer the most are those who have no say, no choice, the silent victims. And they are the children of India. Six 6,000 children under the age of 6 die every day here in India. That's over 2 million a year. 46% of its children are malnourished, and the malnutrition rate is worse than that of sub-Saharan Africa. There are also estimates of up to 40 million children in forced child labor. Look at it this way. India has 3 times the American population in 1/3 of the space. Add to that intense poverty, famine, natural disasters, diseases, AIDS and malaria, and you have a recipe for tragedy, and most significantly, for unwanted children.
Yet we ask why and how. If India is rapidly becoming a world superpower, then how are these statistics possible? But the answer is extremely complex considering the thousands of years of history, the vast population, caste system, which for 300 million people being the lowest caste, call the untouchables. Then there's gender discrimination and lack of education. But the one problem that is common to all is poverty. And poverty is the root of most child-related problems in India. And as unbelievable as it may sound, some parents due to poverty simply give their children away, sell them, or they die of starvation. The World Bank estimates that 42% of the total Indian population now live under the global poverty line of $1.25 per day. This means that a third of the global poor now reside in India.
To make any sense out of this striking contradiction, there's one reality that must be understood. You see, India is like two countries, 25% city and 75% rural. That's 300 million population, 800 million population. The richest, the poorest, the educated and the uneducated, the new India and the old India. And while the new India brews within the big cities, the rural areas have seen little change. They remain unaffected by the newfound wealth of the cities. And when it comes to the children, who will want the unwanted?
Well, I found someone who wants the unwanted. My travels took me to the northern capital of India, New Delhi, where I met Dr. R. Abraham and his family. Abraham is a prominent pastor in India whose work with children brings a ray of hope into an otherwise darkened landscape. I travelled to see his work firsthand, spent time talking to his wife and 3 children who are well-educated young adults that represent the new emerging India.
So Abraham, let's start at the beginning. Where did this all begin? You were born where?
Well, I was born in South India in an Orthodox church background.
What sort of family?
Like, I'm the only son among 5 sisters.
Really?
And my father was an alcoholic.
So you were the spoilt boy?
Yeah, completely spoiled. And it actually turned out and showed up when I was 12 years old.
How so?
Well, because as I said, you know, when you're born as a son itself, you're spoiled in India.
Yeah.
Among 5 sisters means you're completely destroyed. So...
Funny, witty,
Yeah, great sense of humor.
and very, very hardworking.
He's bossy though, isn't he? Huh? Bossy. Seems a fun guy to me. He's got a very witty side, hasn't he? He's got like a cheeky side.
And I think, I'd like to believe that we've inherited a part of it.
Oh, you have?
The cheeky, sarcastic side, definitely.
I was always the topper in my class. So I always got good marks, good places. I graduated with a bachelor's degree in chemistry.
So you're on track as a career professional? What
You know,
changed?
like, I could have been a rich man because everything was said, my future was so bright. And everything was going well. And one day when I was praying, the Lord very clearly spoke to me that He wants me to go and preach the gospel to the people of my country. And 30 years later, I'm sitting with you today. We got more than 2,500 churches in 23 states of India. That's what I thought was my call. Until a few years ago, I was in one of the remote places where I saw the mothers selling their children, little boys, for 50 cents. And I said, why? Because They were being sold because there was no food in the house. People were dying. Starvation, death was so prevalent in that place. And these children were sold to the carpet factories where they were working for 16 hours a day. From 6 o'clock in the morning till 10 o'clock at night, no place to go. They slept there, they worked there, broke my heart. And I felt the Lord was saying, oh, He's going to look after them. I said, God, I will do it. So that was the beginning of my heart for the children. I remember going to those homes and saying to them, don't sell your children anymore. I'll take them. I will look after them. Everywhere I went, another place I go, the children, the girls are there at the mercy of the thugs on the streets. Girls, 10, 11, 12 years old. So I started 1, 2, 3. Now we got 12 orphanages right across the country, which is growing all the time. We are hoping to have 20 orphanages by the end of next year.
So Abraham, we're standing outside of one of 12 children's homes that you run all over the nation. Just tell us where we are right now.
Yeah, actually we are in a place called Silvassa.
Now this one is a boys' home.
Yeah.
And how many boys do you have
We
here?
have got 16 boys. And some of them are orphans, and some of them are having tragic stories of one of the parents getting killed, commit suicide, and they were left on the streets with nobody to help.
My mother had hepatitis and she died when I was 2 years old. My father died of cancer when I was 8 years old. My father was very sick and soon after he died. After that, my mother ran away with another man. She never came back for me. I haven't seen my mother since I was young and don't know what happened to her. My father was a drunkard and married another woman and kicked me out of the house when I was so young. I used to have only one pair of clothes which I wore for a whole year. My father died and there was no one to look after me.
So that's the kind of background that the children come from.
And how long did they stay here?
They will stay here until they're 18 years old.
So this is their home?
That's why we call it home. This is their home until they can stand on their own, learn some trade or school so they can find a job.
So who runs the homes?
Every home has got a family, a house parent, who will live in the same building 24 hours, looking after them.
These are the children who were totally rejected, and there was nobody to love them, and they were lonely. There was no hope for them. And this is the place where they found love and home.
My father poured kerosene over my mother and burnt her to death. Now he is in jail for many years, and that is why I am here. When I was small, our mother died in front of me. She consumed poison. I used to have nightmares. My father murdered a woman and he's in jail. My mother married another man and she left me. Before I came here, I was in a house where nobody cared for me. But here, I'm being looked after. I'm studying in a good school. I have good food. I'm happy. I am so happy they are here with Santosh and I. We look after them as our own children. My only desire is that they should all reach a good place in life.
We see a future for these children because they will have a good education here, and they will also learn a skill so that they can go for a job. So certainly they are going to have a bright future.
I am studying in the 7th grade and I am ranked 3rd in the class now. I will study until 10th grade and then go to university. I really want to become a scientist in my life. I'm happy here. I go to school and I'm living a good life. After grade 12, I will go to university and I want to become a pilot.
I love them very much.
I was so moved by the stories these children told me about how they came to be in the care of these people. And there are 12 homes all over India with hundreds of children being cared for. Yet this is only a part of Abraham's work with children. I was then taken to the hungry, begging street children of Delhi, where every day Abraham sets up feeding programs.
You know, when you're living in the cities, you see the children on the streets. That's why we call it street children. They live on the streets, they beg on the streets. That is their life. And they're begging when the cars come and stops at the traffic lights. And these children don't go anywhere. They don't have a life. So 3 years ago, we started off going after these children, 30 children. We brought them into a park. We started feeding them. And that's the beginning of the ministry around the street children.
So they gather here and you teach them?
We teach them, they sing songs, we teach them a little bit of English, ABCD and all that. They spend quite a bit of time with us, teaching them on hygiene. We even teach them how to wash their hands. Either the father and mother is not there, or they're so poor, they got nothing for themselves. So they're literally starving people. You know, we got almost 500,000 of these children in the city like this.
500,000.
500,000.
Now you reach more like this in several locations.
We got about 8 locations, and we are reaching more than 600 kids
weekly.
weekly.
But they're all school-age kids.
Yeah, they
Why
never
aren't
been
they
to a
at
school. Nobody cares. What is school? You know, our life is like begging. If you can find food, you made it in life.
Right.
To them, there's nothing more to life.
But some of them you send to school. Is that the idea?
We are sending almost 17 kids at the moment. We
Out
are
of this
sending
group?
out of this group.
7 street kids that don't have enough food to eat. What's your vision for them?
My vision is to start feeding about 5,000 kids every day.
5,000 a
Yeah,
day.
that's our plan.
So if it's so obvious a problem, why doesn't the government do something about
You
it?
know, too many, 1.2 billion people. You know, you will become callous. You know, that's what the government has got so many programs on paper, but it's never put into action. That's the only problem.
Right.
Yeah.
But what I saw next shook me so deeply that I would never forget it. We followed 2 of the street kids who were at the feeding program that day to the slums where they lived. Their names were Sonam and Anita.
So this is where Sonam lives with 5 of her siblings who she looks after. She's 10 years of age. She looks after these kids during the day right here. She's going to show us her house. So we're going in. Okay. This is it. So Sonam, this is it. This is your house. This would be no more than 1 meter by 2 meters. But I can barely, if I go like this, I'm now touching both sides of the wall. And if I stretch this way, like that, I'm now touching the other end of the wall. But there's a TV here. You have a TV, eh? Everybody has a TV. 6 people can't fit here. So this is how you sleep every night. Sonam has been coming to the program for 1 year. She doesn't go to school because this is what she does all day. She looks after 5 kids because her mother's at work, and this is where she lives. So we thought we'd show you. It's an amazing story. Thank you, Sonam.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now we're following Anita to her house Who lives here with you?
यहाँ कौन कौन रहता है?
यहाँ पे मेरी मम्मी और मेरे दोनों बहन भाई और मैं.
My mother, my brother and sister.
What do you do all day here?
जब मम्मी ऑफिस काम पे जाती है तुम क्या करती हो?
मैं तो स्कूल चले जाती हूँ.
She going to school and make food.
And she's been coming to the feeding program for 3 years. Is that right? For 3 years?
Yeah.
And when she first started coming, she wasn't going to school. That's the aim, that's the goal, is to send all of these children to school. Otherwise, they never get educated. What a difference it's going to make in her future, in the life of a child. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
The next day, I visited another feeding program. This time, I was shocked even more. The slum where these children lived was actually built on a rubbish dump. And 2 of the children took me to see where they lived.
So what's your name?
Bubbly.
Bubbly. It's a nice name. Bubbly is one of the children here. She's 10 years old. She doesn't go to school. And she's going to show me her house. What's your name?
Ajad.
Ajad. That's a good name. That's a smart coat you have there. Look at this coat. Wow. Ajad lives here in this slum. Again, we're at a feeding program in this location where we come once a week, feed these kids, educate them, teach them things, sing songs. And they don't go to school. They have no money. It's just poverty-stricken. Which one's your house? This one. This is your house. Oh, can I go inside? Yeah, take me in. Oh. Okay. This is where you sleep. Hey? This is your house where you sleep, in here. And how many brothers and sisters do you have? 4 brothers and 2 sisters. That's 7 children. 7 children and mum and dad. And this is where they sleep, right here. As you can see, it's about 2.5 meters square, and there's 1 window. This is like a tent structure. It's really just old bits of canvas with a little bit of wood just to tie it all up. That's all it is. But this is where Bubbly lives with a family of about 8 people all here. This, you can see the stove where they cook right down here, and they sleep around here. This is a very nice house.
Leaving the slums that day, after holding their tiny, dirty little hands, I tried to examine the mixed emotions I felt. I felt the sacredness of a human life, yet in the worst living conditions in the world. The children were so beautiful, so innocent, so utterly dependent. They may live on a rubbish dump, but I felt an overwhelming sense of reality that the price tags were all wrong in India. These children were the real treasure, the diamonds, the gold, the valuable. But it didn't end there. As we drove away only 1 minute down the road was the opulent India, the wealth next to the slum, the new India coexisting with the old India.
So tell me about the new India, right? There's the perception in the West that we hear about the new India, the wealthy new India, the call centers, Bollywood. Tell me what's the new India?
Well, new India means the booming economy.
Right.
That's what the world is talking about, New India.
Okay.
And it covers almost 250 million people.
That's about 800 million people that it doesn't cover, about 8 or 900.
Almost 900 million.
900 million people. So it's the minority by a long shot.
But India as a whole, like from our perspective, and even if it's young India, it would be at least two different countries. Because there's the urban, cosmopolitan, aping the West, young, or India. And then there's a rural India, which might almost be, you would think it's another country, that it cannot be the same country with these brilliant flyovers and the subway and the malls.
Well, 250 million people living in the cities exposed to the economic boom, whereas 900 million people, to them, the tiny little village is a whole world, and they have got no idea, no knowledge about anything else in life. That's two countries.
How do your peers see the other India, the old India, the other 75%?
It's separate.
Totally separate.
Totally separate. Even to the extent that, we know how the West perceives India. Like, we have a feeling that the way maybe National Geographic Channel or, say, a movie like Slumdog Millionaire would show India in a particular light, that we're poverty-stricken and there's like cows and bullock carts on the road. Almost to the point that like people like our peers, like the young urban India would be like, why are they showing India like that? Right. Our India is this India, the cool India. Why don't they ever show this, which shows India in a better light? So it's almost like a disassociation with that. That's not the real India. You want to keep it in the back, and that's not real India. Look, this is what we are today. Yeah. This is what we are.
The whole perspective of solving the problems, this is not even part of their problem, because they've been living in that and they're ignorant to the fact. So that is the main reason why the disparity has increased. Before we all were same, and then after a while there was a group of people who started getting money, who started getting education, everything, and they didn't care. The other people were still there.
The caste system seems to be a big part of the puzzle.
Caste system is about 3,000 years old. So no matter how better you become, how great you become, if you're born in a low caste, you're a low caste until the day you die. That is the caste system.
So it really does become a form of discrimination.
When you see a beggar on the street, the same beggar for 10 days, first day you feel something, you give him some money or you give him some food. But if it's there 365 days of the year, after a while, you'll just walk past, right?
Indifferent.
There was one more area of Abraham's work that I wanted to see: schools. I found out that he not only helps to send impoverished children to school, he actually builds them. He has a vision to empower the next generation with education. And what I saw impressed me beyond measure.
So Abraham, you have a strategy for helping kids. Tell us a bit about that strategy.
Well, we are trying to help all the deprived children in this country. So we got three strategies. One is to feed the street children, and the other one is bringing the orphans into the homes and running orphanages. And the third one is giving the best education to the village children in different parts of this country.
By running schools,
yes,
building schools. Yes. So we are at a school right now.
Yes.
That's outside of Delhi, and it's very impressive. It's a big two-story building, beautiful grounds, and the kids just look fantastic, all in their uniforms. How many children are here?
We've got 600 children here, and as you see, the land and the buildings were bought and built by the donors.
By people who just give for the need of helping to educate children.
Exactly.
What would you say about educating children here in India?
Education is a very important thing. it's so hard to get to the top.
Right.
So we wanted to give the children the best education so they can fight their way up and find a place for them in their lives.
Terrific. And how many schools do you have?
We have got another 5 schools, 6 schools we run, and we have got a vision of establishing 20 schools. That's our vision.
That's fantastic. Such a hard worker.
For sure.
I mean, sometimes we would get tired watching him, but he would never get tired.
He can just go on, 24 hours without sleep, and then he's up, and it's not that just he's up there smiling, energetic, ready to go, and we're just dragging our feet and saying, this is not possible.
Quite often, me and my wife used to have a hard talk, because she says it's too much for me. So I used to sit with her and say, I want to be with my children. I want to be with my wife.
Normally speaking, he been away from home 9 months a year.
9 months every year?
Every year. In times, I personally miss him, my husband. Our children used to miss him, their father. But I know that I have to do a sacrifice.
How do you finance them?
Well, it is basically financed by people who become sponsors of these projects. People help us to buy the land, to build, and also continuously sponsor the children.
That's all by personal donors?
Personal donors, generous givers, businessmen, churches, individuals. That's the only way we are running this. There is hope for the children. And I am telling you, I will pursue it till the last day of my life and do my best with a total faith in my heart, believing that we could make a difference.
Is it worth it?
It is worth it.
Why?
Because when we look it as a whole, and me and Abraham and our 4 children together, what we are doing, it's worth it. To do it is priceless. If I don't do it, those things won't be there.
Is there an answer to this? Can it ever change? Will it ever be any different? Because the reason I'm asking you that is because from my position, being an outsider coming in, it's overwhelming. And you really do get the thought, and I'm just being honest, how will this ever change? How can it ever be any different?
In the midst of the caste system, in the midst of the ignorance of the needs of the children, in the midst of all these things, we can make inroads. We can touch that child that nobody else wants to touch. We can give him some food to eat. I can take him to a school. I am visualizing that he could be somebody tomorrow from a nobody today.
This is Shivani. She's an orphan. And she's been looked after here in Nagpur in the center of India, one of Dr. R. Abraham's children's homes. Basically, her story is that she's unwanted. She has a mother, but the mother left and remarried. The father's gone, and nobody wanted her. But she's been taken in by Dr. R. Abraham. She's being schooled, clothed, fed, looked after, and loved. And look at her. She's absolutely beautiful. And there are millions of kids like this in India. You know, a long time ago, Jesus Christ took a child just like Shivani, and when he had put this child in the midst of a crowd, he said these words, "Except you become like this, you cannot enter the kingdom of God." In a day when the status of children meant so little, Jesus gave them dignity and supreme worth. But history reminds us that even individuals can bring change against all the odds. Dr. R. Abraham believes that if you can change the life of one child just like this, that eventually justice will prevail. But until then, will you have a heart for India and give these kids a better life? What's your name?
Bubbly.
So what's your name?
What's your name?
33 million gods. Ay, 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 ay.